Good afternoon, people. We are going to do today a video on how to make buttoned-up yoga socks. Here is a written pattern of the yoga socks, and we're going to check off our rows as we go along. I know you don't have a written copy of it, but you can get yourself a pad and a pen, and you can check off the rows as you go along, write them down as you go along so you'll know which row you're on as the video progresses. So you're going to need your pen and your pad, and I'm using an H hook. This is an I hook. It's slightly larger than the H hook, and the reason why is because my customer requested a pair of pink ones and she wants them a little more snug, so I'm going to use the H hook instead of the I hook. You can do the same if you see that your project is coming out a little bit too tight. You're gonna need a blunt needle to sew in the ends and a scissor to cut. Now, if your project is too large, or you want to make it just a smaller size for a smaller foot, you can remove like maybe 2 stitches from the pattern that I'm going to show you today, and all the other rules will still apply. With the exception of the extra stitch or 2 that you're going to remove, or perhaps maybe you want to add a stitch or 2. Doesn't matter. I'm going to show you how to begin the pattern. You're going to start with our loop. And we're going to start our project with the half double crochet foundation chain. If you don't know how to do that, go to my channel. There is a video demonstration to show you how to make the half double crochet foundation chain. So we're going to chain 2. Remove 1 loop off the hook, yarn over, and remove all of them. That's your first stitch right there that you just made. And your next stitch is going to be made right on the last stitch that you made. You're going to do the same thing, release 1 loop, yarn over, and release all of them. And that's 2 stitches. There's the first one, this is the second one. Same thing on the bottom. 1 stitch, 2 stitch. Now here's the third one. You're gonna go through both front loops and the back loop. Pull up a loop, release 1, yarn over, release them all. Now you have 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to repeat this again, and our pattern is going to call for 32 of these stitches. And the foundation chain counts as the first row. Okay, so I'm coming up on my last 2 stitches of the foundation chain. Here it is. I'm going to make 2 more. And that's our 32 stitches. Now if you need 30 stitches or 31, whatever, however amount, you can go ahead and do so, and just stay with me. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to flip our foundation chain over, and this right here is going to be our first stitch that we're going to crochet in. And I'm going to check off my first stitch, my first instruction rather, and we're going to start on our second row, and we're going to do just regular half double crochets. If you don't know how to do the half double crochet, go to my channel. I have instructions in there on how to do a half double crochet. So we're going to crochet all the way to the last 3 stitches, which is, we're going to crochet all the way to the 29th stitch. A little more focus. There's some sunlight coming in through the window at this hour. So where are my last 3 stitches? These are my last 3 stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip the next stitch, and then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet in the last 2 stitches. And no matter how many stitches you decide to start your foundation with, you're still going to do the same thing at every buttonhole. When you chain 1 and skip the next stitch and half double crochet in the last 2 stitches, that means you're making a buttonhole. So this right here is your buttonhole. And like I said before, it doesn't matter how many stitches you decide to start your foundation with, the rule still applies. You're still going to make the buttonhole the same way. Okay, so now we're going to flip over, and we're going to crochet in the last 2 stitches that we just made, and we're going to crochet in the buttonhole. Just put the needle right through the hole. And the reason why we're doing this is because whatever your foundation chain, however long it is, however many stitches it has, you want to maintain the same amount of stitches throughout your ankle, the button panel that we're making. This is what we're making right here, the ankle part. So I started with 32. I want to maintain 32 stitches. So we're going to crochet in our next one. So after each buttonhole that you make, when you finish the row, you're going to count and just make sure that you have completed all the stitches and that you didn't miss any, because this area over here where you make the buttonhole, it gets a little confusing and sometimes we miss a stitch. Okay, I'm going to keep going to the end. Here, you do the same. I'll meet you right back at the next row. Okay, so we just finished row 2 and row 3. Row 2 is where we created the buttonhole. Row 3 is where we just finished. We crocheted in the buttonhole and in the last 2 stitches that we made in the previous row. So that will be row 2 and row 3. We're now on row 4, and we're going to continue all the we're going to turn our work around. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet all the way across. Okay, we just finished row 4, so we're going to check off rows 2, 3, and 4. Now row 5, we're going to half double crochet in the first 2 stitches. We're going to chain 1 and turn over, and we're going to half double crochet in the first 2 stitches. This will be our second buttonhole. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to continue to crochet in our other stitches. And our buttonhole is made. So we're going to go ahead and crochet across. I want to also teach you how to count your stitches. These are your stitches up here. And these little things you see here, those are stitches. So right here we have our very first stitch, and then we have, this is 1, then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's 12 and 13. So far on row 5 we've made 13 stitches, and this is where your chain 1 is, right here, right there. Okay. I'm going to finish this row and I'll show you how to count the rows. Now this last stitch here, it gets hidden, so be mindful that you pick it up, because sometimes that last stitch gets forgotten and then your project ends up looking like this with a missing stitch. and you don't want that. So we just make sure that we pick up our last stitch. It's a little tight because that's where you chain one and you make your turn. So it gets a little tight when you're making a half double crochet. So just gotta force it in a little bit there. Okay, so let's count our rows. Your foundation chain counts as a row, so this is row 1, this is row 2, 3, 4, and this is row 5. So for row 6, cross this out. On row 6, we're going to half double crochet in the next 29 stitches, and in the chain 1 space, and we're going to half double crochet in the last 2 stitches. So we have our chain 1 there already. So we're going to turn our work around, and we're going to half double crochet in the first 2. I'm sorry, we're going to half double crochet in the next 29 stitches. This is not the buttonhole side. You have to go all the way to the other side. Okay, we're still on row 6. I had to stop so that I can make some lighting adjustments. Too much sunlight coming in. Okay, so here we are near the buttonhole. This right here is our next stitch. You're gonna crochet in the buttonhole, and we're gonna crochet in the last 2 stitches. Okay, so row 6 is done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to turn around and chain 1. And row 7, we're going to half double crochet across. I'm going to start my row, and I'm going to meet you at the other end. Okay, I'm at the last 2 stitches of my row 7. And we're going to move on to row 8. Row 8 will be our 3rd buttonhole. So what we're going to do is we're going to half double crochet in the next 29 stitches. We're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, half double crochet in the last 2 stitches. I'm going to start my row here. I'm going to crochet in my 29 stitches, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so at my last 3 stitches, I'm going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and half double crochet in the last 2 stitches. and we made our third buttonhole. So now we have 3 buttonholes. Okay. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn over, and we're going to do row 9 now. So we're going to check that off. So we're going to half double crochet in the first 2 stitches. Like that right there is your next stitch. Looks a little weird, but it's a stitch. And then we're going to crochet in the buttonhole, and then we're going to continue crocheting across. So this is row 9. You can check our rows. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is 9, the one I'm making now. I'm going to crochet across, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I finished row 9. I have my chain 1, and I'm getting ready to turn my work around and go to row 10. And row 10, we're going to half double crochet all the way across. Okay, so we are done with row 10. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work around. In row 11, we're going to half double crochet in the first 2 stitches, and we're going to get ready for our 4th buttonhole. So we're going to crochet in the first 2. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to crochet in the next. And there's our 4th buttonhole. And we're going to continue to crochet all the way across this row. This will be row 11 on our 4th buttonhole. Okay, so we are on row 12 now, and we're going to chain 1 after finishing our row. We're going to turn our work around, and we're going to half double crochet in the next 29 stitches. Okay, so we're coming up on our buttonhole, and right next to there is where we're going to place our next stitch, that confusing little loop, and then we're going to crochet in the buttonhole, and then we're going to do our last 2 stitches. Chain 1, and we're going to turn. Okay, for row 13, we're going to half double crochet all the way across. and I will meet you at the other end. Okay, so we're on row 14 now. We finished our half double crochet row, and on row 14 we're going to half double crochet in the next 29 stitches and make our 5th buttonhole. So we're going to chain 1 and turn our work over. We're going to crochet all the way across. See if I can use my phone to hold that in place. Okay, so I'm at the last 3 stitches for row 14. We're going to make our 5th buttonhole. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to crochet in the last 2 stitches. Going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work around. And this would be row 15, our last row. I have row 16 here written down, but I decided that this project does not need a row 16, so we're gonna eliminate that. 15 would be our last row. We're gonna crochet in the first stitch, in the second stitch, and in the buttonhole. And we're going to crochet in the next. Going to crochet across, and I'll meet you at the other end. Okay, I'm coming to the last few stitches of row 15, and I want you to stay tuned because we're going to do the foot part, which is another flat piece. It looks similar to this one, but it's much smaller and it doesn't have buttonholes, and it's the part that goes wrapped around your foot. So we're going to fasten off here. And I'll be right back, and we're going to start doing our second part.